Welcome to the Behind the Science podcast kung saan kakausapin natin ang ating mga scientists para ibahagi hindi lang ang mga resulta ng pag-aaral nila, kundi pati na rin ang mga behind the scenes or behind the science stories nito. Ako si Drew, ang host for this week's episode. And today, we have our guest, Tara. So, Tara is a published marine economist and is currently a PhD candidate at James Cook University on the traditional lands of the Bindal people in Australia. Her research interests are mainly in coral reef valuation and fisheries value chains. Outside of the academe, Tara is also a free-diving instructor and activist. She used to spearhead citizen science projects for coastal communities in the Philippines and campaigned against environmental degradation in her hometown of Manila. So without further ado, we would like to welcome our guest, Miss Tara Abrina. Hi, Tara!
Hello!
So ayun, for our viewers and listeners, actually we know each other personally din. We joined the same org. So ayun, so dun kami nagkakilala. Ayan. Parang kailan ka ba nag-join ng Agham? Ako 2020 eh. So,
same, 2020.
2020 rin. Ayan. So,
anti-terror law. Yeah.
Oo, yun. So, ayan. So, we have the same organization, which is Agham. Ayan. So, magsimula muna tayo dun sa parang background nyo. Like, yung evolution nyo as a scientist, ganyan, as a person. So, when did you realize that you wanted to work in the science sector?
Okay. Ito, I get asked this a lot. Kasi nga, marine economics, parang hindi siya
actually
usual, di ba? Do you want the short version or the long version?
Sige, doon tayo sa long version.
Long version?
Long version. Charot, we have time naman.
Sige, so, alam mo, it goes all the way back to high school when you were choosing your, yung course mo sa college.
Oo.
Yeah. So, parang, nung high school, natanggap naman ako sa top universities. Medyo contentious ang top universities. Hindi ko na siya i-mention kung ano yun. Pero, nung high school, di ba? Nung high school, I got into the top universities. Pero gusto kong pumunta sana sa Ateneo kasi nandun yung crush. Nandun yung crush ko.
Ano ba yan? Parang hindi. Okay.
So sabi ko sa mama ko, okay, sige, gusto kong pumunta Ateneo, ganyan. Kunyari, kasi they're the best in ganyan-ganyan. Tapos, sabi niya, kasi she's actually a Chinese businesswoman. Oo, Chinese ako. Ang sabi niya, I'm not going to pay for an Ateneo education kung hindi ka mag-business. So sabi ko, okay, sige. So ang dami kasing parang business-related courses sa Ateneo, pinili ko yung hindi nasa School of Business or School of Management. Pinili ko yung nasa School of Social Sciences, which was economics. At pumasa naman sa mama ko, thankfully. So, sabi ko, okay, sige. Mag-economics ako. Pero hindi ko siya in-enjoy. Parang, I just went through the motions. Tapos, ang actually, hindi ako na-awardan ng any academic awards. Like, I was awarded Ateneo Awards for the Arts, actually, in dance. So, BS Dance yung tinapos ko with a minor in economics. Parang
in economics. Yes, org pala to.
Exactly. So, yeah, and then I went on to be a professional dancer after college, no?
Wow.
So, I didn't really focus on economics so much. So, after I graduated, sabi ko, okay, that's it. Ayoko na siyang, I don't want anything to do with economics na afterwards.
Yeah.
Pero after college, I joined an org sa Ateneo din. They were accepting mga alumni. ISDA. Ano siya? Parang...
yung free diving org, di ba? Sa Ateneo. ISDA.
Yes.
I've heard about that.
Oo.
Yung
Di ba
ano
may
yun?
counterpart siya sa UP
Oo.
na MBS? So,
Oo,
actually,
yeah.
I joined both and I really loved it.
Hmm.
Tapos sabi
Ay,
ko,
oo nga, MBS ka rin. Wala lang.
mm-mm.
Daming ano.
So I joined it and I was like, oh, I
Mm.
really want to do this for the rest of my life, meaning
Yeah.
diving. As in, I was
Yeah.
really into diving. So sabi ko, okay, I'm gonna quit my job. Like I was dancing full time. I had like a call center industry job,
Ah.
and then I
Okay.
left. And then I said, okay, I wanna do this more seriously. So, parang naging dive professional ako, and then at the same time, nag-apply din ako for a research position in MSI. Na
Yeah.
thankfully natanggap naman ako. And then, yun. As in, at the time, sa MSI, wala pa masyadong nagsusoksay, social science.
Yung so parang kung hindi pa siya as interdisciplinary as now, parang ganun, di ba?
Yes, and that was actually 10 years ago. Saktong 10 years ago, 2015.
Oh.
So it's very interesting to see how far the institute has come in terms of accepting, different perspectives on, especially marine conservation. So yun.
Yeah.
Back then, I was the only one doing economics. Tapos yung research partner ko, si Eliz, was into she graduated psychology. So, yun yung first research project ko with Sir Perry Alinio sa Comeco Lab. Yeah, so that was very interesting. So my first project with Sir Perry was on marine protected areas, specifically yung socio-economics niya. So at the time, parang, di ba, wala pa masyadong nagva-value ng the social and economic benefits of marine protected areas. And that was like, parang yun yung culmination ng career ni Sir Perry eh. Parang papunta na siya doon sa, di ba, how does all of our work relate to people? How do they benefit from it? So yun yung parang gusto niyang itignan. And then after that, I went into more parang quantitative computational science. So specifically coral restoration. Parang I was tasked as part of the ACR project. So Australia funded siya.
Okay.
Like partnership between Australia and the Philippines. Ang institutions, yung CMSI was the local institution. Tapos si Sir Patrick Cabaitan naman yung naging parang boss ko doon.
Yeah. The principal investigator ng project.
So, so I was tasked to sort of economic evaluation ng coral restoration efforts ng MSI during that time. MSI and Southern Cross University. So that is the project that funded my 3 research papers, including the one that we're talking about today.
Yeah.
When I say research papers, I mean papers that were published in like ISI journals and things like that. So I spent siguro mga 4 or 5 years on that project. During that time, I also went into my master's. By master's naman, another kwento na naman yan. So sabi ko, parang ayoko na mag-economics! Di ba? Parang sabi ko, ayoko na talaga. Parang, kota na. Kota na talaga.
Pero di ba yung master's mo sa econ din?
Yes.
Hindi siya sa MSI, di ba? Like, girl, ano
nangyari? I know, right? So sabi ko, okay, so I remember it very vividly actually. I was in Sir Perry's office and I was sitting with him. Sabi ko, sir, I think I'm ready to do a master's in marine science. So very excited ako. Tapos sabi niya, he's very kind. So he was like, oh, that's very good, Tara. And I'm so excited for you. And I'm very happy to give the recommendations. But I'd also like you to consider. Sorry ko, oh my God. I'd also like you to consider that maybe what's needed right now is economics. Parang gano'n. Parang wala
So
masyadong
siya yung
gumagawa. Sabi ko, I know! So sabi ko parang, oh, Sir Perry, okay, sige, fine, I'll do it. And he actually really helped me kasi parang he knew the dean at the time, the dean of the School of Economics in UP. So parang nag-usap pa kami, ganyan, about my options and maybe future directions. So parang, okay, sige, let's do economics. So I went into while I was doing the valuation for coral restoration,
yeah.
that project, I was taking up my master's in development economics sa UP. So those two things, yung project na yun, tsaka yung master's ko, finished at the same time. So ganun din yung thesis ko, medyo related sa coral restoration, coral valuation, pero applications in damage assessment naman. So parang magkano yung kailangan singilin sa mga ships kung kunyari na-damage nila yung coral reefs. Yun yung naging thesis ko. So yun. That was yun yung parang medyo...
Actually, parang... Parang important din naman yun. Parang at least alam... Parang, although you really can't put a value on or put a price tag on like those types of yung ecosystem services ng mga corals, etc. Pero at least parang may visualize ng mga tao kung magkano or like kung gaano kalaki yung damage, 'di ba? Na nagawa if ever nung kunyari sa thesis mo, 'di ba? Parang wala lang. Yun lang yung parang na take away ko dun sa
Yeah, no. I mean, it does have a lot of real-world implications.
Yeah.
Kasi ganun natin na-build yung systems natin. So in terms of, let's say, environmental damages or environmental insults, it's always how much do we ask them to pay for? Di ba? Parang ano yung tax, ano yung fines and fees, yung penalties, ganyan. It's always in peso value. So the work was, I mean, I can see how important it was naman. And we did get yung compensation from, say for example, yung case study ko kasi sa master's thesis ko was when the US Navy ran aground to Bataha Reef. So parang parang ni-recalculate ko lang yung fines na binayad nila. And I mean, according to my thesis, medyo tama naman, within range naman yung, I mean, I had a different approach from the original assessor, pero almost same kami ng estimate of damage. So that was very interesting. So yeah, it has a lot of real world implications, and I do appreciate spending like half of my research career on that experience. And I mean, yung PhD ko ngayon sa James Cook, yun din naman yung foundations niya. So I do appreciate that time. And I had a really good mentor. So I had a mentor from Australian National University, si Professor Jeff Bennett, and he at the time
okay.
Parang it was only me and him. So you see
co-author mo di ba?
Yeah, so all three of my papers were just me and him. And as in parang I was living like a dream kasi he was one of the foremost authors in that field, and he was solo ko siya. Tapos nung time na yon, nag-retire pa siya from ANU as a professor. So parang ako pa yung...
Ang dami niyang time, ganun, essentially.
Ang dami niyang time with me. So I really appreciated that completely. Yeah, but yun nga, after my stint with quantitative valuation, like very purely quantitative science, valuation, whatever, right? Parang I tried to, I had like, alam mo naman yung gusto natin, diba? Science for the people.
Yes.
So I really wanted to see how the fruits of my work could be applied in the real world. Meaning,
Yeah.
you have to do yung communications and then maybe help
Go
the
to
science.
communities then. Ganyan. Part
Exactly.
din yun. Yeah.
And then the science to policy aspect was also very important to me. Like, I really wanted that to be the fruit of my research. But unfortunately, parang when I was doing my roadshow, my tour,
Roadshow.
my roadshow, hindi siya ma-appreciate masyado ng tao, I felt, because it was so highly statistical.
Technical.
Yeah. Parang it was like a black box of I put these numbers and it just churned out these values, and therefore yan yung basis ng fines and fees or taxes. Diba? Parang it's not so compelling, you know. At least that's how I found when I was communicating my science to people in decision-making positions. So parang sabi ko, okay, then what would be a better approach? And luckily, I had this opportunity to be part of parang it was an action research project of the UP Center for Integrative and Development Studies on fisheries value chains. So if you know value chains, parang medyo mas makwento siya. You know, it's very case study based, tapos very qualitative, more of social science, papunta na siyang social science rather than, you know, the hard valuation in economics. So, yun I found parang mas madaling ikwento or mas naiintindihan ng mga tao yung format na yon, that style of research, in terms of learning, you know, new information and stuff. So yun, from very, very quantitative stuff, I found myself going into more qualitative, more makwento type of things.
Yeah. Which is mas na-appreciate pala nila, parang ganun.
Parang it's easier to understand kasi syempre, kwento di ba?
Oh.
Tapos, and then both naman have implications in the real world, di ba? Both have lessons to be learned in terms of policy. So, pero ang mas masaya lang ako magkwento about about, you know, fisher folk communities and how they rose to the challenge of conserving their resources and things like that. Whereas before, yung sa valuation, parang ito yung mga numbers, therefore dapat i-preserve natin to, diba? Or dapat i-restore natin yung coral reef.
Parang ganun yung atake niya compared dun sa isa, ganyan.
Oo.
Ayan.
Yeah. So it's going towards the same goal anyway, but maybe just different approaches. So yun na yung ginawa ko from nung COVID. Yeah, go.
Yeah. Ay, sorry. Question pala, ano yung, when you say fisheries value chains, what does that mean? Ayun, parang nabaffle yung utak ko sa ano. Oo. Method siya, diba?
Method siya. Okay, so good question. Fisheries value chains, it looks at basically ang foundation niya is the supply chain of the fisheries product. So from the time na ma-harvest siya in the ocean to, you know, buyers in the market, tapos to the final, kung ipaprocess pa yan into canning or isa-sell siya as is, or tapos to the final end users or tayo, yung consumers, diba? So it looks at that sort of process, but it also, that's why it's called value chain. It maps out kung ano yung distribution ng value ng product na yon. So for example, it helps you sort of visualize kung sino yung mas nagbe-benefit dun sa supply chain.
Okay, gets ko na.
Okay. So it allows so it allows for more parang distributional, kasi kapag sa quantitative lang na value, buo lang yung value eh. Hindi mo nakikita kung sino yung nag-benefit.
Kanina siya napupunta, kumbaga, ganyan.
Exactly. So this one sort of maps that out. And then, ang dami mo nang pwedeng idagdag in terms of analysis. So, yung naging focus ko, for example, with the team that I worked in sa CIDS, so, di ba, you have the value chain as the base, ito yung mga distribution of values. Bakit ganun yung distribution?
Diba? Mas yun yung tinignan.
So bakit si middleman yung nakakakuha ng mas maraming profits compared to the fishers?
Yeah.
Parang gano'n. Or in some cases, actually, konti lang yung nakukuha ni middleman. Hindi masyado. Si exporter yung mas nakakakuha ng profits. So, bakit gano'n? Diba?
Okay. So parang sinisilip niya yun.
It explores the relationships and then yung parang implicit value sa policies that underlie that whole chain. Whether it's on a national level or local fisher organization level, ganyan. So yeah, it's a very powerful tool.
Actually.
And I think, diba? Yun.
Moving on to your paper, I guess. Parang speaking
Dun
of...
sa ano?
So speaking of value chains, ganyan, cost-benefit analysis, charot. So today we will be featuring actually 2 studies. Yung first is a published monograph. So Going Against the Tide, Kapunungan sa Gagmayang Isda sa Concepcion, and yung benefit cost comparison of varying scales and methods of coral reef restoration in the Philippines. Ayan. So, yung monograph mo, it was looking at this fisher folk community, di ba? Like, and then, yung isa naman is, it's looking at, like, alin ba yung mas cost-efficient, tama ba? Na way or na method for coral reef restoration. Ganyan. So, first question is, can you explain the papers in one sentence? Or can you differentiate between them? Ganyan.
Okay. So, yun. So, that's yung backstory as to the differences. Diba yung parang evolution of my research interest. Yun yung dalawang sort of on the opposite sides of the spectrum of my research career, diba? So that was very
yeah.
So the first one, let's go chronologically. Yung benefit cost paper is about it's actually it's a methods paper basically that tackles how we can evaluate between different coral restoration approaches. So in that paper, ang results is not the results were actually not as important as the method itself. And then at the time, because at the time wala pang parang established evaluation approach in the Philippines, at least.
Okay.
I mean, there was one, pero parang hindi siya as comprehensive as the one that we proposed, which is the benefit cost analysis. So that was the first paper. The second paper, about the fisher folk. The short name is KGMC. So this one is a case study on their on KGMC as a grassroots organization that was able to, parang ang pinaka-interesting part sa kanya kasi was that they were able to demonstrate how the environment, entrepreneurship or enterprise, and the empowerment of their fisherfolk organization worked hand in hand to produce benefits for the community. Benefits in terms of those 3 then. Okay, so it's like you don't there's a lot of when you talk about the environment, ang daming nagsasabi, the dominant discourse is usually um, you know, environment versus economics, right? Economic
Yeah,
growth at the expense of
of
people
the environment.
and planet, right? Or of the
Yeah.
environment and of people. But this grassroots organization, KGMC, who, by the way, gave me permission to talk about this sa
Mm-hmm.
podcast ngayon. Um, it shows how they were able to go against the tide of that dominant discourse.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was not one sentence each, but I mean, hopefully you get the
Okay
idea.
lang. Yeah. At least parang may ano na tayo, parang background of the results of um the paper itself, like ganon. Pero paano yung sa KGMC, Fisher folk sila in what province pala?
Zamboanga
Ano?
Sibugay.
Zamboanga, Cebu. Ah, okay.
Yes.
And
Which I
then
love. It has a special place in my heart, by the way. Mm-mm.
how long mo ginawa yung case study dun sa KGMC pala?
So sa KGMC, I think we started fieldwork in 2019. Pero the results didn't come out until, was it 2021 or 2022? Yeah.
Medyo,
Pero at the time, 2 years din siya of back and forth and yeah.
Pero pandemic din no?
At
So parang,
exactly.
di ba? Parang pasok siya sa
Nahirapan din
pandemic
kami.
years.
So nahirapan kami doon, pero thankfully ang community, they were very technologically savvy. So we were able to meet with them kahit online.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
nice.
And then I'm very, very proud of this work kasi yung if you know the Ramon Magsaysay Foundation, so during the time na binavalidate na namin yung findings, they were with us. And I think they used our case study to solidify the nomination of their leader, si Dodoy Robert Villan.
Okay.
So he is like, currently a Ramon Magsaysay awardee, and I'd like to think that this work helped them, really recognize his work. It's just really a documentation. Ni naman siya parang, dahil sa akin lang ganyan, pero parang, I was very happy to hear that news. Actually, I was working with them so much that si Kadodoy is one of my ninong sa kasal.
Oh! Wala, cute naman. Paano mo pala, paano mo siya na-formulate? Paano mo naisip na, okay, mag-case study tayo dito sa community na to or sa area na to? Parang, what sparked that interest na pumunta doon? Parang ganun.
So for transparency, all of my research projects so far have been funder driven. So the research questions, syempre kami na yung nag-finalize ng research questions. But yung idea have always been from the funders themselves. So for example, the benefit cost analysis was from the principal investigator nung project na yun sa ACR. Si Dr. Peter Harrison. And then for the KGMC study, it was, tip lang siya ng funder, Peace and Equity Foundation, so PEF. Si Kadodoy was like one of the board members of PEF during that time. And they were very inspired by his story, so they wanted it documented. So, yun lang. We just basically come in and think of what an appropriate framework would be, especially for a case study like KGMC. Wala naman talaga siyang parang, wala kang tinetest, walang results or whatever. But what you do is just get as much information about the organization and then look for and then look for ways to organize the information in a meaningful kwento. So, yun yung approach dun sa KGMC study.
So, during the conduct of your research, ano yung mga challenges na na-experience niyo?
Yeah, we mentioned one, lalo yung sa KGMC that was during pandemic years. Yeah, that's very difficult. But I think, besides that very extraordinary thing, one of them would be, it was a time that I was transitioning to a new research interest. So si Ma'am Annette Belkman Balawing, she was like, she is the co-convener of that project. And then si Jane Capascio, who's my co-author here. So they were both very patient with me, tsaka very willing to explore new methods and new frameworks. So yun. So that was one of the challenges for me during that time. I had to learn from scratch. Kaya siguro it took 2 years din kasi parang how do I organize all of this information?
Yes.
Diba? Ang daming info. You can see the monograph is like 100 pages and I had to cut a lot from that already. So a second challenge was also siguro language na because
ano bang language nila there?
Oo, so Kabasalan, the municipio, is in Zamboanga, Sibugay, and normally they would speak Bisaya there. Pero may mga immigrants kasi from Iloilo. So there's Bisaya, there's Ilonggo, and then so there's also a big Muslim contingent there. So it was also be maybe Arabic is the correct term. Or yeah, and then so yun, I had to adjust to that language. Thankfully, Sika Dodoy was very expressive in all of those languages, so very easy for him to translate if he needed to. And then otherwise, thankfully, marami naman tayong mga lab mates na Bisaya, Ilonggo, ganyan. So
you can ask them kapag confused ka, ganyan.
And actually, I made it a point in my research, in like my stay in MSI, to learn Bisaya. Like I asked our lab mates to sort of talk to me in Bisaya, and then I would talk to them back, and I'd ask them to correct me or whatever. So yung gusto ko lang naman from that exercise was for the people I talked to on the ground, na maging comfortable sila to speak in the language that they're more familiar with. And then I could understand. I wouldn't be writing in Bisaya anyway, diba? Pero at least actually, I could understand what they were saying.
And you could establish yung rapport with the community, diba? Parang, kasi parang kapag pagparas kayo ng salita, diba? Parang mas open sila na magkwento, ganyan. Kasi kapag Tagalog, parang minsan yung iba nahihiya or ayaw nilang or nahihirapan sila, ganyan. So, better na talaga na matuto. Lalo na, especially mga gantong types of studies nga. So, punta na tayo doon sa the good, the bad, and the ugly. So, yung memorable experiences mo while doing the research.
Ano ba? I think I mentioned a lot of it already.
Yeah.
For the KGNC paper, challenges, well, good, bad, and ugly. I think for that paper, I just had good memories working with the community. I really, really prefer that style of academic work. So always involving, I guess sila rin yung nagturo sa akin na parang you must always involve the community if it's about a community of fishers, sila dapat yung nagde-dictate ng research questions. Kasi syempre sila din yung makikinabang, diba? So from the start, it's always been, I'm always using their language. I'm always using their frameworks. Kaya yung method na pinili namin for this paper was a grounded theory, meaning you don't really have a theory or a framework in mind. You don't have set questions.
Oh.
So you go in there and you just experience it. It's very experiential. And then afterwards, kung may parang frameworks that come up, dun mo lang siya in-note. Parang, that actually is very indicative of this theory that I studied before. Parang ganun. Yeah.
Ang interesting kasi parang ang tawag mo dito. Parang hindi sila aware na ginagawa nila yun. So parang you're translating na parang pinapakita mo sa scientific community and sa public na parang ito yung framework na sinusundan nila. So parang ang interesting lang.
Yeah. And it's always like a negotiation between theory and then yung framework nila. Kasi syempre, sila yung masusunod, diba? It's their story. So therefore, if they say, we have 3 E's, environment, enterprise, and empowerment, yun yung gagamitin natin, diba? Tapos kung hindi siya mag-fit sa theory, bala na si theory. So it's always like that negotiation. And then it was a very beautiful experience kasi nga sila sobrang open to sharing, not just information but open to sharing the benefits of their work.
Yeah.
Kaya sobrang laki ng impact nila.
So at what point did you realize na lahat ng information na nakalap mo, or for example dun sa benefit cost comparison naman, parang yung lahat ng results mo na it was enough na or sufficient to submit for publication?
Okay, that's a very interesting question.
Kasi di ba minsan we can go on and on and on sa research, tapos parang kailan ba ito matatapos, kailan ba siya, di ba? Parang merong cue na parang okay na to, ganyan. So, when at what point mo na feel yun na parang ito na yun, okay na to, ganyan?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I haven't actually thought about that yet. Pero yung sa benefit cost paper, I think that one was more straightforward in terms of journal writing kasi. So, we decided, tapos one lang naman din, it's just me and my co-author, Jeff. So, it was easier to sort of figure out na, okay na tong paper na to, or whatever. Again, since it's a method or modeling paper, hindi siya, you can never submit something like a model that's perfect. There's always going to be your many assumptions, and you're always working with the best science of the time. So, like when I was reading my paper this week, sabi ko, ang dami nang nangyari na bago na hindi na applicable tong model na to. So, so that's I think one thing to have in mind, no, na parang you're submitting it like as a best effort, but know that in the future it can always be revoked, it can always be made obsolete, and that's fine because every step you take towards when you do science, at least in my opinion, as long as you do it with integrity, every step you take is a step in the right direction. It will always contribute to the growth and development of that field. Whether it's wrong or right, there's always going to be a contribution. So yun yung parang in modeling and in methods fields, I think that's something that we have to keep in mind, and I'm keeping that in mind in my PhD kasi yun yung parang focus ko ngayon. You can't always predict the future accurately. Diba?
And parang may kasabihan all models are wrong. Ganyan. Diba? May ganun all models are wrong. Kasi parang
there's
predictive
so
kasi siya.
And there's always going to be, it's as right as your assumptions, basically.
Yeah.
Diba? So, in terms of the KGMC paper, this one naman, I think, ang pinaka-final na step namin dun was the validation with KGMC, and that was super important for me as the main parang principal investigator of this paper. it was always important for me to get their say at every step
Mm-hmm.
of the way, even to publication, before publication. So sila yung parang pinaka-last, um, the final stop
Yeah.
for that. Funders also, I guess, you
Mm.
can, when you present your results and if they're happy with it, then you can say, okay na for publication. But um, in this case, I think for me it was more important, and I think the funders naman also agree. PEF was very good with this, that the case study subject, KJMC, would be the one to say, okay, this is ready for publication. That's fine.
Yeah.
Oh yes. So they say that your co-authors, your supervisor is very important, especially at this early stage in our
Mm-hmm.
research career. Super important for the growth of your work, of your career. But I would also say that you're choosing the right funders. I know beggars can't always be choosers, but if you can choose
Oh
your,
my gosh, yes.
diba? But if you can
Oo, parang,
choose your funder, it would be very, very useful for you.
speaking of your PhD, Charot, what are your plans moving forward?
But again, the showbiz answer is siguro, okay, so my scholarship is
Mm-hmm.
so I'm fully, my scholarship is full scholarship from the
Yeah.
DOST. They're very nice to give me full scholarship here to study in Australia. The conditions for that kind of scholarship, and I think some people would know this already, is
Mm.
that I return service.
Yes.
So yung balik scientist sort of thing. Like so for probably the next decade after my PhD, I'm going
Kasi
to
times 2, di ba? Parang,
times 2 siya. So if my PhD is 3.5 or 4 years, then I have to return service for 8 years
8 years.
in
Yeah.
the Philippines. Pero ano naman, you can choose naman kung anong organization or what type of job, basta related siya dun sa inaral mo. So thankfully, a group called Action for Economic Reforms, they have decided, or they have, graciously accepted me as their postdoc.
Aww.
Postdoc.
Okay.
Hindi naman siya postdoc like formal,
Oo.
in a formal sense. Pero
Pero at
after
least
my
may pupuntahan ka na
PhD,
after, di ba? Like, agad. Ganyan.
yeah. So I that's like my talagang first choice. They do policy lobbying, ganyan. So very well entrenched sila dun sa policy work. So I plan to do that, support them in terms of research, maybe improve or develop yung portfolio nila in terms of environmental policy. So that's the dream. And then, but I think I also would like to teach. So,
Yeah.
so I come from my grandma was a teacher, and so some of my family members are also teachers, and I would like to continue that. Kung anong field or anong school, di ko alam. I do have like people in School of Economics going, "Ooh, dito ka." But I was like, "Ayoko na mag-economics." Joke lang. So I think I'd love to teach. I was even thinking of teaching in like a rural school,
Yeah.
like the province or
Actually,
whatever.
mas kailangan din kasi na diversify.
So depende na lang kung ano yung, like what opportunities exist, and kung okay yung, syempre, you have to think about this the sweldo, then the living conditions and things like that. So yeah, if it's possible, I really would like to teach in a more provincial, maybe state school. Yeah.
So research, any plans moving forward? Like, anong plano mo sa PhD mo?
Anong plano ko sa
Like,
PhD ko?
Meron na bang, meron ka na bang nakakonceptualize na study? Ganyan?
So many. There are so many things pa that we need. like on a like more on the scientific side
Mm-hmm.
before we can actually formulate some policies that need to be formulated. So I have ideas of what policies are needed. It's just that the science is not yet there. So hopefully by the time I finish my PhD, nandun na yung science. Otherwise, it will have to be you and me, Drew. Tayo yung gagawa
Good
ng
luck sa
science
atin.
na yan. I know. Yeah. So
Ayun.
yeah, I think there still is a lot of room for the science policy um, discourse. That interface between science and policy. We always talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
Parang saan pupunta yung science natin or di ba parang ganun.
Mm-mm.
But
Like, anong nangyayari? Parang paper na lang ba siya? Alam mo yun, may mga ganong thoughts din minsan.
yeah, exactly. But also the other way around. What is policy doing for science? So
Ah,
how
yeah.
are we being supported on an administrative level? And this I attribute this to our dear friend C. Warner.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah, and everyone who worked with us on the STEM Workers Alliance, right? So the um, people who are looking at STEM worker welfare, research workers, uh, administrative tasks every day. I think that's
Yeah.
also very important, no?
Yan yung parang, ang dami kasing science workers na hindi regular, di ba? Parang they work on a contractual basis or job order setup, ganyan. So, hopefully, magkaroon ng
Mm-mm.
policies for that. So, anyway, for the final section of this interview, what is your advice to aspiring researchers? Yung mga future, natin, STEM workers, ganyan, scientists, etc.
Get organized, Char.
True naman.
Yes,
Ah,
I think that's one of the first things. I really believe that our science will improve um, if mas connected yung mga tao to each
mm-mm.
other. Not just in terms of the technical side. Like, of course, there's always room for
Collaboration is important.
collaboration. Yes, and kasi diba, no man is an island, that's for sure,
Mm,
because um, you can't be an expert in everything. So there's
yeah.
an expert for something else, like geoscience, for example, which is needed. Like your insight is needed in economics and so on and so forth. Um, so get organized is one of the things that I think science workers underestimate the power of. Tapos,
Yeah.
kasi when you get organized, then on an administrative, so that was the technical side. The administrative
Mm,
side is, um, gagaan yung work mo eh, di ba? If we're able to ask for better pay or better benefits or more support from admin, I think that will really improve your science and then the science of people down the line. So once you solidify it in policy, it will help, future scientists grow. And, I think yun talaga yung hindi masyadong tinitignan ng mga,
mm.
I mean, for science workers, it's just like a thing that we have to do. But I think it's really important.
I
Yeah,
agree
so
din
get
naman.
organized.
Kasi parang, di ba, yung welfare mo, parang it could reflect on your science. Ganyan. You could be more productive kung wala kang iniisip na mga hindrances na ganyan, di ba? So, ayun.
Mm-mm.
Wala lang.
Well, sorry, ang gulo. One thing that I would say is really broaden your skill set. I feel like
Mm.
I come from dance and I come from a very artsy background. And I feel like that helps me communicate my science better and relate to people on the ground better. So that's one. But in a broader sense, parang for me, especially in our early to mid career demographic, we have to be willing to step out of science sometimes. Kasi, diba, when you're younger, you're like, okay, I do a bachelor's, then I do a master's, tapos gusto ko mag-PhD dito sa whatever, France. And then, sometimes nadi-derail or sometimes hindi natutupad. Like, you don't have grades that are good enough, or, you missed an opportunity, or wala kang pera to pursue that specific thing that you want. And I feel like if you'll always be sad and depressed if you're very rigid with your life plan sa research career. But I feel like it's a disservice to you, kasi ang dami mong pwedeng gawin that will still be related to your true self, or the things that interest you, diba? It will eventually, as long as you remain true to that, I think it will just come back to you. Like, so for example, for me, in nung pandemic years, hindi ako nag-stay sa research eh. Like, nag-venture ako into other fields, more action, more parang campaigns, more ganyan. But I think all of that has laid the foundation for this PhD that I'm doing now. All of that experience gives me insight and makes my PhD a little bit more flavorful, a little bit more colorful, because of all of those experiences. And in the way that I communicate it also, lahat yan was from my previous experience, even in the call center industry, even in dance, even in, so I feel like for scientists, reaching or going into other fields is so important for our science. I feel like we shouldn't limit ourselves to what we can do. So yeah, that's it.
Do you have anything to promote ganyan right now? Like,
no, I don't want to be seen.
I don't want to be perceived. Charot.
I don't want to be perceived. Leave me alone. Wala. Ano ba? So, I think, okay, let's promote STEM Alliance. So if you're part of the UP Diliman community, definitely get in touch with STEM Alliance. Agham, Science and Technology for the People. Of course, it's very good to join. Just to get to know more of your issues in society where science and technology definitely are very much needed. I think that if those are not accessible to you, as science workers, as researchers, I think it's very important for us to stay grounded in real world news, because always, it's always useful to have analytical minds looking at what's there politically, diba? Geographically, even in your own barangay, like issues, for example, of waste management, or issues like, parking. Those are things that you can apply scientific methods to. And I have done this, in a very informal way. Pero I think we shouldn't limit ourselves to, again, our fields. So we shouldn't limit ourselves to science, and we shouldn't limit ourselves to our own fields. It's very important to be more well-rounded. So yeah, that's it.
Okay, so that ends our interview. Maraming salamat sa pagtanggap sa aming invitation, Tara.
Thank you for having me. Yeah.